10 intimate tables, thick slabs of prime rib, and the most famous burger in the world. And it's not just a burger, it's an experience.
So beautiful.
Fort Charles is a legend for a reason. The hardest table to get in town. Luckily, my friend has a running reservation, so I've eaten there a number of times and I think I've cracked the code. And since getting a seat is like a blood sport, I figured why not bring that show into your home. This is the latest inductee to Stevie's Food Hall of Fame. This is the great Fort Charles Prime Burger from scratch, including the show. Now to do this from scratch, we need to make our own brioche buns, which in order to make good brioche buns, you need to start this a day ahead. Allow for an overnight fermentation. So we've got all of our dough ingredients here. We need to do one thing first. We need to make this Japanese technique for bread baking called tangshong. It's essentially a roux, and it helps to stabilize the gelatins in the starch and retain more moisture so it stays fresher longer. So I have 100 grams of whole milk coming up to a simmer. Once it comes to a simmer, we're gonna add 20 grams of bread flour. Whisk it all together and you're gonna create a roux, a thick paste. Spoon that into a bowl and allow that to cool down before we incorporate it. So now we can start with our mixing bowl on a KitchenAid. This is really the best way to do these buns. First up, we need bread flour and we need 380 grams of it. To that, 50 grams of sugar, 1 packet of instant yeast, about 8 grams. Whisk it together, then 8 grams of salt. Now here we have 6 eggs. I need 3 whole eggs and 3 egg yolks. Then we got 60 grams of whole milk and 30 grams of heavy cream. Whisk it, and then we can add in the roux. So now we have our wet mixture, and we have 140 grams of cubed butter that it's been sitting out for like an hour and a half, so it's nice and soft. Very important. So we've got our dough hook on, and we're just gonna let it run and let the salt mix in, and then we're gonna slowly pour in the wet ingredients. Slow is nice, it just gives it a little bit of time for the liquid and the dry ingredients to kind of meet, fully absorb. And slowly start to work that speed up. Now the dough has come together. I'm gonna start to work in a tablespoon of this butter at a time. This is sort of the defining characteristic of brioche, just mounted with a ton of butter. Clean up the edges, make sure all that butter gets in there. And once our butter is worked in, we're gonna turn it on high and let this go for like 15 minutes. Basically until all of that sticky dough that looks really loose right now doesn't look much like a ball of dough. After 10 or 15 minutes, you're gonna start to see it stick to the side and then all of a sudden pull from the side and start to roll into a ball. And oh my God, what the f***? Oh man, look at the dent on this thing. Kinda think I'm done with this one. But what did I tell you? The mixture would become dough. Get out of here. You're gonna need this tomorrow too. Now we're gonna get it out of the mixing bowl. What we're gonna do, some slap and folds. You see the stretchiness, how it's not tearing? Sort of a good sign. Turn it, pick it under, lift, and then slap it. Turn it, lift, and slap it. What this is doing is slowly building up structure so it can almost hold into a ball. See that? You can see some air balls in it. It's still sticky, it's still very hydrated and loose, but we're gonna allow it to rest for like 25 minutes, covered. Give it another one of those slap and stretch and folds, and it's gonna transform a bit. Set that off to the side. Now here we've got our beef. We are going to be grinding our own beef tomorrow. Fort Charles Prime is also Au Cheval. It's also Tivoli Tavern in Chicago. Hog Salt is a big restaurant group, and they serve this burger almost everywhere, even in France, at Le Remenet, their newest location, which is getting rave reviews over there. Some places like Au Cheval use prime, others use Wagyu. I'm using a blend of chuck and short rib. That's gonna get us to about a 70-30 fat to meat ratio, but we're also gonna be adding some beef tallow to it to balance it out. But I wanna place it on a rack like this, and I wanna separate them, get space for air to move around them, and I wanna sort of, faux dry age them overnight. We wanna remove the excess moisture from this and concentrate the meat flavor, which is kind of the idea of dry aging. It's been about 25 minutes, we're gonna do it one more time. Grease my hands a little bit, dig under, pick it up, see that stretch? That's what you want. Now we're gonna take all of that structure and stretch and build it into a ball. becoming less sticky over time as we do this. And just kind of like folding it onto itself builds up the body in the dough. Now you see how it's kind of holding in there more? It's more of a ball. Now we need to bulk ferment it. And let it sit out at room temperature and rise for about an hour and a half until it's about doubled in size. Now we're going to move to the slow overnight cold fermentation in the fridge. This is important. It helps build the structure, it helps the flavor and the texture. So into the fridge overnight. Now before we get started, we need to preheat our griddle for our burger. A good restaurant style burger needs a nice hot griddle for that perfect sear. And I'm gonna be using the carbon steel griddle from our sponsor today, Made In. The Made In griddle brings restaurant quality cooking right to your home. Heat safe up to 1200 degrees so it can be used outdoors on grills, over an open flame, or indoors on a gas, electric, or induction cooktop. And for a recipe like this, the carbon steel griddle is essential to create that really hard crust that is iconic on a good burger. The griddle is pre-seasoned and naturally non-stick, ready to start using right out of the box without any chemicals or coatings. And just like cast iron, as you use and season your carbon steel griddle, it develops naturally a non-stick surface. And the shape actually maximizes the cooking space on top of your stove, enabling you to cook many different things without ever overcrowding the pan. So to get yourself one of the carbon steel griddles or any of Made In's amazing products, head on down to the description below. Now after a night in the fridge, this is what it's gonna look like. Now from here, we're going to degas this, basically just punch it. Look at that. I'm gonna hit the board with some flour and turn the dough out onto the board. Got my scale, looking for about 85 to 90 gram dough balls. And then we're just gonna fold it on top of each other, just like a pizza dough. I wanna seal that bottom, use my hand and sort of create that tension in the ball. And then we want to flatten it out. And that's gonna turn into a beautiful brioche bun. And we're gonna place that on a sheet tray, weigh out the rest. You really don't want any seams or creases anywhere on the ball. You want it to look like that. And again, you can shape it in our hand, just kind of taking it under and just turning it and pushing it back to create tension in it. I actually find balling dough to be quite fun, you know? Feel like you're in like a bakery. Now you can bake them like this and they're gonna be just fine. If you're a little bit more anal about it and you want like a perfect shape, you can use one of these ring molds and like essentially you're just gonna place it over there and bake it in that, but as it proofs, it kind of shapes it a little bit. So we'll do one like that. We'll let the rest go free. The dough makes about 10 rolls. Now they're gonna get covered again. And while we handle everything else in this recipe, they're going to proof one last time. Now onto our meat, and it's been overnight in the fridge and you can see it's like deepened in color. That moisture is sort of dried out and evaporated. Doesn't mean it's dry inside, it just means the excess, the unnecessary moisture has now kind of evaporated out and that beef flavor is concentrated. Now we need to grind it. Everything's gotta be cold. We're gonna be adding some beef tallow. That's gonna be some added fat, so we're gonna end up around 70-30, and that's what makes a great restaurant burger. And when I say everything cold, I even mean the grinder. If you wanna weigh the beef fat, which I'm gonna use about like 1.5 to 2 ounces of, plus all the meat, you wanna arrive somewhere around 20 ounces total. That should give you around 4 5-ounce patties to make 2 burgers, or 4 singles. One thing we gotta do is make sure we cut these thin enough to fit in the hopper. So basically, short ribs, I'm just gonna slice in half. These cubes, I'm just gonna sort of fillet open, so they're more like a strip. So we're just gonna turn on the machine and we're gonna start feeding the meat into the hopper, alternating meat and a little bit of the fat. And we cut it long because those long pieces kind of pull through the hopper rather than these smaller pieces. Not a huge deal, but it just makes life a little bit easier. Once I'm close to the end, I kind of ramp up the speed and try and get all of it out that I can. So I'm just gonna mix it up a little bit, make sure everything's nice and incorporated. And then we're gonna make about 5-ounce balls. You might wanna go a little bit smaller. It's hard to bake the bread the right size of the patties. So 4.5 might be better. I'm kind of leaning in the middle. Then I'm gonna roll it into a ball, and we are gonna smash them, but I'm going to sort of help it. Instead of creating a ball, I'm creating a puck. And that's our burger patty. Looks like I ground up a little bit more. Let me just shape the rest. We got more than we bargained for. These are gonna go in the fridge uncovered, and they're just gonna chill and dry that surface out before we cook them. Next up, Fort Charles uses incredibly thick cut bacon, almost like cut pork belly. So I'm gonna cut them in half, line them up. Maybe I'll do 2 of these just for 2 burgers. I'm just gonna stick these into the oven, place a little weight on them. We're gonna turn it on to 375. We're gonna check in on them about halfway through, give them a flip. We're just looking for nice caramelization across the surface of the bacon. Now what we need to do is drain off the fat, and you've got a really perfect piece of bacon, and the bacon is gonna be at the very top of the presentation, so having it look beautiful, important. Now these are also maple glazed, so we're gonna take some maple, just put a little bit on top, toss them in there, back into the oven for like 3 to 5 more minutes. While that's in there, I'm gonna prepare an egg wash for the brioche buns. Got 1 egg in here, whisk it up, and then we're gonna add just a little bit of cream. Just gonna make sure it's well whipped. I want it to sort of run off the whisk rather than be stringy. Now we can prep our brioche. See how they've risen? Now one thing I gotta do first, just gonna spray this ring so it doesn't stick. And we're just gonna egg wash them thoroughly all around the sides. We want that color to ride all the way around. I'm gonna slide this back on. Just gonna show the difference between like a perfect uniform one and more rustic one. Bacon is done. It's perfect. We're just gonna set these off to the side. Keep them warm. Now these go into a 375-degree oven, no hotter, otherwise they're gonna split. We're gonna cook them for 18 to 20 minutes. Halfway through, we'll give them a rotate, and what we're really looking for is for color. They're gonna start off a little bit pale. You just wanna cook them until the entire exterior gets engulfed in this caramelized, deep brown color. The kind you think of when you think of a brioche bun. Let your eyes guide the way. And you wanna take them out once they look like this. We got some melted butter. You just wanna hit it on top of each one. Now we need to allow these to cool. Cooling them is just going to allow us to slice into them evenly across, not create all these little kind of rivets, so we get a nice golden brown when we toast the inside. That's what that little ring gives you, is the nice uniformity, as opposed to something like a little bit more rustic. We're gonna allow these to cool down. Next up, we're onto the sauce, and Fort Charles uses a Dijonnaise, like a Dijon mustard sauce. Half cup of mayo, 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard, a cap of vinegar, sherry vinegar, red wine, apple cider, white, whatever you want. Cap of Worcestershire sauce, salt, fresh cracked black pepper. I like it mustard forward. It's that acidity that cuts through the richness of the fatty burgers. Then we need to prep our garnishes. We need a little bit of red onion, and we're just gonna take a little bit of this cheek off because I don't need a ton. Now the onion's gonna be raw, and so I wanna take this as thin as possible. So I'm gonna take my time and cut as thin a slice as I can. Throw those into a bowl. Next up, we've got some chives. So I'm gonna take them, get them lined up. I'm gonna take the skinny rough ends. I'm just gonna take that paper towel and start to roll up those ends. Now we just line them up, and I trim the edges off. And again, just like the onions, slowly chop it finely. Chives go into a bowl. Then you're gonna take your favorite pickle spear. None of that sweet stuff. Again, that acidity is there to cut through all the fat in the burger. Just gonna get some damp towel, place over them until we're ready to use. So our buns have cooled, and this is the one I've chosen. Nice, symmetrical, perfect shine, beautiful. Now, we've got our 2 patties. Those are ready to cook. I've got my griddle preheated. I wanna cook these around like 400 degrees on the surface. 2 slices of American cheese, 1 per patty. Now before I cook that, I want to show you how to make the perfect fried egg. This burger is served open face. On one side is the burgers and the bacon. On the other side are the garnishes covered by a perfect fried egg, the exact shape of the burger bun. And so we've got around this size. And I'm gonna show you how to make a fried egg, perfectly circular, with the yolk perfectly in the center. So I'm gonna preheat a non-stick tiny guy. Gonna hit it with some spray. Also gonna spray the inside of the round. Now once the pan is hot, we're going to crack an egg and separate the whites in a bowl and reserve the yolks, and pour just enough of the egg white into the ring mold to create a nice, even, thin layer of egg white. Once I see that translucent white start to turn a true bright white as the egg cooks on the top, then I'm gonna go ahead and lay my egg yolk down right in the center to form the perfect sunny side up fried egg, the iconic accoutrement to this burger. Now all we have to do is just let that cook until the white on the surface is fully set, and we can go ahead and season it with some salt, some black pepper, and some chili flake. Once it's cooked, I can remove it from the pan and just hold it until we're ready to top the burger. Now our griddle is nicely preheated, we can go ahead and drop our buns. We want to toast those first, and I'm looking for like a really nice golden brown kind of crunchy crust across the surface of each of those buns. To help achieve that even browning, I like to move and rotate the buns around the pan, making sure all sides of the bun hit whatever hot spots are the hottest. Sometimes I'll press down on the top just so we get a nice contact with the surface, and once they're nicely brown, we can remove them from the pan and then onto the burgers. Our griddle is nice and hot, around 400 degrees. I can go ahead and place one of our patties down, and then we're gonna take our smasher and on the parchment, smash that down until it's about a ½ inch thick, maybe a 1/4 inch thick. The 4 Charles Prime burgers are not super smashed thin. There's a little bit of meat to them, but they are of the smashed variety. You want to press down hard to make sure the surface makes nice contact with the pan, and then the parchment should easily remove, and we can repeat with the second patty. Once the burgers are smashed, we can go ahead and season them generously. At this point, they can take a good amount of salt. Now, what pressing them did is sort of release a lot of their own fat into the pan, which you can see is bubbling around the patties, which is essentially frying the burgers in its own fat, which is what makes a good burger. Now you can kind of track how far this burger is being cooked by looking at how the meat turns colors as it rises onto the top of the patty. So once we can see it's about 3/4 of the way cooked, we can take a scraper or a spatula, scrape under the burger, and give it a flip. Now that's a beautiful sear, that's what you're looking for. A burger without a crust is a flavorless burger. Now, immediately we need to get that cheese on there to allow it to melt. 1 slice per burger, you can add more if you'd like. And then just a little squirt of water to allow it to steam. And once that cheese is nice and gooey, we can stack them and get them off the grill. On the bottom half of the bun, we're gonna place our burgers. You could even put a little sauce underneath them too. I kind of wish I did that. We're gonna hit the bacon with a little bit of black pepper, and then we're gonna place 2 perfectly uniform slices of bacon right on top of the patties. Now that's how the bottom bun is treated, onto the top. We're gonna start by layering a nice even layer of the sliced pickles, followed by another layer of the very thinly sliced red onions. On top of that, we're going to place our Dijonnaise, and then on top of that goes our perfectly cooked egg. Then we're gonna take our chives and shower it on top of the egg to create beautiful color, add that chive flavor. Then we can place that onto a plate, and we're ready for the show. This is what you get presented at the table. Then they're gonna pick up the egg and sort of cling to it like that. Position the burger in the center. Dangle it in front of you. Jiggle that egg yolk. And then the egg yolk becomes part of the sauce. You take a knife and you sauce that bacon. Then you drape it over. Press it down, cut it in half. And there you have the 4 Charles Prime burger. I mean, that's an incredibly beautiful, accurate interpretation of their incredible burger. Many of you may never even get to step into that restaurant. It's that hard to get into. And as it goes with the story of this series and inducting into the Hall of Fame, these are restaurant dishes I love, that I try and reverse engineer to share with you. So if you never get a chance to taste these things, now you can if you want to have like a weekend project. Recipe for this is gonna be down below. Also, in the description, check out the link to our Patreon. We've got a school running, kind of like this, but more interactive, more in-depth on recipes. You get homework, I judge them. It's a good time. That's all that I have today. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care of yourself. Go feed yourself.